Hello guys, and welcome back to a brand new video on Satisfactory Update 5, and this week's video is breaking down last week's teaser on signals. Now the video is, as Jace put it, information dense, so I'm going to try and break it down as quickly and as easily as possible, and if we can do this in under 10 minutes, I'll be happy. Now train collisions will collide with one another and they will derail. We know this from last week's teaser trailer. There will also be a sound and marker as to when this happens and as to where the train's derailed on our maps, and they will need repairing. Now the good news about this is you just need to go to the cart where they've crashed and press E to re-rail it. It's nice and simple. As Jace mentions, it is super easy to re-rail them because they don't want trains to be tedious to fix. And if you derail them over a void, they're working on a hologram system to allow you to replace it easily. One thing that wasn't mentioned, which I would love to know about, is whether if they derail, we can just leave them there, or what will happen to them. Will they affect the frame rate of the game? How's that going to affect the playability? Should we wish to leave one there as a kind of storytelling moment within our maps? Now, when it comes to signaling, there are going to be two types of signals that are coming. We covered this slightly, but we have a bit more clarity on what they are now. So we have the blocking and paving or pathing signals. Now, blocking signals create blocks or segments of track, and they will prevent trains entering into another block that's currently occupied at any point by another train. So even if a train's carriage is just at the end of a block, another train won't be able to enter until that train leaves the block. This is pretty much how train signaling works in real life across the globe, except there are obviously more advanced and complicated setups. And one thing that I found quite interesting is that train stations aren't automatically a block for signaling's sake, so we will need to place the signals manually at the start and also the end of a train station. And if you don't use train signals at a station, there is a chance that the trains will back into one another. However, this is only going to be the case if you have more than one train going into a given station. If each train has a dedicated station, then it's just the pathing along the rest of the track that you'll need to worry about in theory, although this may change as we'll talk about later on. Now, path signals, however, are slightly more complicated. These will be useful for more complicated train setups, especially when you have trains going in two directions along a single track or larger junctions. So what do they do? Well, as Jace puts it, pathing signals reserve a path through a block. Copystain then go on to explain this really well. If you just use block signals, only one train can enter a given block at any one time, and no matter how many rails lead in or lead out of this given block, they can only have one train in that section. This can cause trains to get stuck facing one another, or make them wait for another train to pass through a block, even if there is a clear path for another train to go. So a pathing signal reserves the path or track that one train will take, as well as the block it's heading to through that block. At the same time, another train using the same block can use a pathing signal to allow them to reserve another path, another route along this block, providing the reserved paths don't collide with one another. These pathing signals can be also chained with one another, which will be really useful when it comes to larger, more complicated junctions, like along a train roundabout, for example. Now, we don't need to worry about this just yet, but I will be covering how to do all of this in a guide as soon as I can, so make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Jace then mentions that signaling is directional, so a train will only read the signals that are placed on the right. But if you want bi-directional train tracks, you'll need to use two signals, one on each side of the track. And the signals can also show error messages to help you troubleshoot what's wrong with your track. Also, when we play with these from October the 26th, they are looking for feedback, so if you want more complex functions, then be sure to hit their Q&A site. Now, a big concern during my live stream over on Twitch last week, directly after the teaser trailer, was that my rail lines might be too close, and apparently they are, as any train hitboxes that collide will count the track as a single block. This is great for creating junctions, but if your tracks are too close, which mine are, you'll want to put some space in between them, because you'll either have to use a signal for single train travel at a time along that path, or they will collide with one another. The brighter side of this, of course, is that it also means that you can create interchanging tracks that do not connect with one another but do go through one another, and you can use signals along these sections to create a safe block for trains to pass through, like this cross section here. Following on from this though, we're given a new UI for the train station, and the timetable is getting a whole new interface which allows you to drag stations into the timetable, which is a nice clean addition. And then we have a brand new feature which brings basic logic theory to the game. Now this allows us to add wait times, or to designate whether a freight is loaded or unloaded once, or to wait until it's fully loaded until it goes on to the next slot. We can also specify whether it should only load or unload a specific item, which I know a lot of people have been wanting. Now this may sound like a simple addition, but it really is a huge addition, as it allows us to, should we wish, mix train items. I would also be interested to see whether trains can unload and load in a particular station, like drone ports, rather than have the freight stations specifically designated as load or unload only. But what I love about this is that it points to us receiving more logic systems in-game at a later date, such as logic gates, which will allow us to create much more complicated systems should we want to challenge ourselves in the late game. Finally, it's confirmed that though the update won't break our saves, it may well break factories that are dependent on trains, so be warned, we may have a bit of work ahead of us. And one thing that wasn't questioned from the teaser trailer, or wasn't looked into so much in this video, was the new system that we spotted that allows us to place pillars horizontally rather than just vertically, as you can see in this clip here. And I'd be really interested in knowing more about this new build function that's been hinted at. But that is all we have time for. If you did enjoy it, please do drop a thumbs up. If you want to see more, specifically the train guides, make sure to subscribe. Special thanks does go to all of our amazing supporters, most notably our Solar Eclipse patrons, The Calamity, Cerebral Tag and James Irwin, as well as our Lunar Eclipse patrons, Dixie Chris and Lord of July, as well as our Blood Moon of the Day, which today is JP Norman. Anyway guys, until next time, as always, ciao for now.